This has been something that we've been asking for months. I want the Raiders to go out and sign a cornerback, and if you agree with that, hit that like button right now. Coming up here on today's show, we're going to be going through some free agent corners that the Silver and Black could target with the $34.7 million in salary cap space that they have. The preseason games are over. Roster cuts got to get down to August 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm going to tell you I got some bad news for Brandon Facyson. Are the Raiders going to be keeping or cutting veteran cornerback Brandon Facyson? This is what we're breaking down today. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, because there's a report circulating that right now that the Raiders could be on the lookout for a little extra help at that cornerback position. Antonio Pierce spoke to the media over the weekend, and AP really made it very clear that he was unable to evaluate the talent of Facyson due to some of the injuries that he's had this offseason, which really isn't much of a new story considering the fact that Facyson for the past 365 days has not really been able to get onto the football field. So am I surprised that there's reports right now circulating that the Raiders could potentially be adding some cornerback help? No, I'm not. We've been talking about it since freaking March, April, May, June, July, when the Raiders made the decision. I don't think it was a bad decision to take Brock Bowers at 13 overall, but they made a decision not to look at the cornerback room at 13 when they had the opportunity to do it. That told me that they're confident with some of the players that they have, and we were hoping that Brandon Facyson was going to be able to stay healthy, but guess what? It did not happen. Now, that's what AP said about Facyson over the weekend. Yeah, we got to get Brandon on the field. I can't even evaluate him because we haven't had them out there. So it's just tough. And it's put a lot of these younger corners out ahead. It's good for them in the preseason and training camp to get the reps, but I'm not a believer in throwing young corners out there early if they're not quite ready. So it'd be good to get Brandon healthy. Obviously, Antonio Pierce wants a veteran corner out there. And yeah, we can believe in Ja'Cory Bennett. You want to believe in DeCamerion Richardson. You want to believe in MJ Devonshire. But they aren't ready quite yet, I think, to go out there and do it on a consistent basis. So now you're sitting back going, well, if we don't have Brandon Facyson, and can we rely on Brandon Facyson, then we're going to have to do exactly what Antonio Pierce just told you that he doesn't want to do. So what should the Silver and Black do right now? Do you keep Facyson? Type keep. Do you decide to cut him? Type C. Or do you place him on the IR? Let me know down below. The reason why I'm going to go ahead and say that you just got to cut the guy is because in order for you to keep him on the 53-man, then you're going to take a roster spot away from somebody, and you can't rely that he's going to be healthy. The other reason why I'm going to move on from him is I have already played this song and dance. I was told last season, oh, don't worry, Facyson will be ready sooner than later. Facyson will be ready sooner than later. Well, now we're here, almost a year later, and he's still not quite ready. Just cut bait. You're going to save $2.6 million, use $2.6 of that million, and go out and sign one of the corners that we're going to talk about here on today's show. I know that you can't afford to cut a younger player, but there has been multiple players that I think that deserve to make this roster over Facyson, and I'm not even talking about at the cornerback position. You can't trust that he's going to stay healthy, and if you're going to put him on IR, then you got to put him on the 53-man, and if you put him on the 53-man, then somebody else who deserves the job potentially doesn't have that chance to be able to live their dream, or you could lose them because quite frankly, I did my 53-man roster projection, and players that I ended up keeping over Facyson where I sat down and I go, would I want to lose Amari Gaynor if I kept Brandon Facyson? The answer was no. Would I want to lose Tyreek McAllister if I kept Facyson? The answer was no. Jaden Grant, even a second-year guy, I decided to keep Jaden Grant over Facyson. Why? Because I can depend on these players more. And sure, even though he's only 27, about to be 28 years old, you want to be able to hope that he's going to be able to put it together. But sooner or later, we got to look ourselves in the mirror and go, I just don't believe that Facyson at this point is healthy enough and reliable enough to make this Raiders roster. Now, if you want to go check out my final 53-man roster projection, I did it at home yesterday, and there were tons of major surprises. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Please go check it out. Let you see what you think. Let me know down below, and I also, on that one, spoiler alert, did not keep Brandon Facyson. So coming up here are going to be some replacements that the Raiders should target. And if AP is going to say that he doesn't want to have to rely on one of these young rookies, then they're probably going to go out, and they're going to look at some veterans. So let's look at some veterans here that we could with the money that we have saved. Before we do that, if anybody out there is ever looking for some last-minute tickets, I promise you Game Time is the spot for that. I love being able to go watch football games. I love being able to go watch. recently, preseason's what I've been allowed to do simply because Chuggs and I are always live. But I can remember my games in Oakland. I can remember college football. Hell, I wish right now, I'll tell you this, I was in Ireland to watch Florida State absolutely collapse to Georgia Tech. What a terrible game that was. Great for Georgia Tech. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. I love the curated deals. It makes it easier for me to find the best price and great seats. The one thing that I've just been falling in love with is the super deal. I love a good deal. I can remember growing up as a kid and you're driving by a yard sale, and I'm not saying tickets here are like on a yard sale level, but like you go buy a good deal and you see a yard sale. I feel like sometimes when I go on Game Time, they're just telling me, oh, wow, that's the super deal, that's an average deal, that's a great deal. When I go out and shop, that's exactly how I shop in real life. If I'm doing anything, if I go online shopping, the first thing that I filter is either A, low to high, or filter best deal available. Game Time's already done that work for you. So if you need to be able to find the links for you, it's down in the comments, down in the description. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Soon, it's going to be actually game time. We're about 2 weeks away from the Raiders going up against the Los Angeles Chargers in a game that, yeah, you could say what you want about maybe having a new head coach. Yes, they've lost some of their wide receiver talent, but they still have Justin Herbert. And as long as that guy's got a pulse, our corners have to be ready to rock and roll. And I believe in Nate Hobbs. I believe in Jack Jones. But everything after that, and let's be honest, it is a major, major question mark. And I don't know if I'm ready to rely on Ja'Cory Bennett. So potentially, you'd have to rely on a veteran corner out there. So the positions that we're going to look here, we're going to go from 6, work our way down to 1. This is based on overall how good I think the player is, how much of the fit, what it costs, and really the chances of it ultimately happening. Though I will say the third player on this list is the guy that if I'm the Raiders would be the dude that I think that they go out and sign. Coming up here at number 6, and the only reason why J.C. Jackson is on this list is because a few months ago, maybe about 6 weeks ago, there was a Raiders beat reporter that said, hey, don't be surprised if the Raiders try to go out and target J.C. Jackson. I stepped up here on this show and I said, personally, I don't see how the connection's there. You also have to remember that Jackson's going to be suspended that first game of the season. So, like, you can't even use him week 1 against your division rival. The reason why the connection was made was because Tom Telesco, when he was with the Chargers as a GM, signed Jackson to a 4-year, $82.5 million deal in 2022. So it wasn't all that long ago. But, like, the issue is, and when you look at the past report that the Raiders could be interested, like, him and Telesco and J.C. Jackson did not get along. Like, it was such a bad marriage there that he ended up leaving. He ended up going to New England, and he has not been the player that he was just a few years ago when he was playing in New England, when he was one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if he got paid. He got lazy. But quite frankly, J.C. Jackson has been a name that I've heard being thrown out there by beat reporters. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I would be shocked, though, if that's the guy that they went out there and got. Coming in here at number 5, I'm going to throw out a name from the past that's I haven't really seen all that much communication on. It's Tyler Hall. And Hall last week was released by the Philadelphia Eagles. They gave him like a designation. I think they waived him because of injury. I would like to at least check in to see if he's healthy, or did they just move on from him for the simple fact that they already have so much depth over there in Philadelphia. But I do think if he's healthy, he can be a good addition. This past week, they were working Isaiah Pola-Mao as a slot corner in case Nate Hobbs goes down. To me, Tyler Hall could play that role exactly that. And he did a little bit of that just last season where he played in 11 games for the Las Vegas Raiders, had a 72.7 overall PFF grade, was good against the run, good in coverage. Yeah, the pass rush grades, quite frankly, who gives a shit? Tyler Hall showed that he had a lot of heart. He was out there. He was a reliable player. And if you are simply just looking for depth, not quite the veteran presence, but he is a good depth player overall. Coming in here at number 4, it's Ahkello Witherspoon. And if the Raiders want another 6'2", 200-pound-ish corner, I will admit I think Witherspoon and Facyson do play 2 different styles of football. But another player of like he's the Brandon Facyson type of level, where you could take that $2.6 million that you saved from Facyson, and you could probably give that $2.6 exactly to Ahkello Witherspoon. Started all 17 games last season for the Rams. He does have in his last 30 games 7 interceptions. He's also missed 20 games over the past 3 seasons. And if you want to have that cornerback for depth, where you could do a little bit of a tandem, because entering training camp, entering the offseason, it was the Raiders want to have Facyson and Ja'Cory Bennett battle it out, and they could use both of those players in different situations. If that's the role that you want, and you don't want to go out and you don't want to find somebody that's better than Ja'Cory Bennett, I would say Killer Witherspoon could be another option that the Las Vegas Raiders should consider. But coming up here at number 3 is the name where a few weeks ago I said that it wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders went out and got Keelan Doss XYZ. This is going to be my next one here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders went out and got this veteran player because of XYZ. You just got to find out what that is here in just a moment. If you want to party with Jeremy Chuggs and I, week 1, we're going to be in North Carolina, in the Raleigh-Cary, North Carolina area on September 7th and September 8th for a Raiders Report watch party. How do you get your free tickets? You go to chatsports.com/week1. I got a message from 2 Mount Raidermore members over the weekend. It goes, Mitch, I have no idea how to get tickets to this event. That just means you're not paying attention. Go to chatsports.com/week1. It's literally here. It's also going to be in the comments in the description of today's show, but it's going to be a free party to be able to pull up to. You're going to be entered to win raffle prizes. There's going to be signed Raiders memorabilia, special guests, food, drinks. This spot right here is literally where we're going to be. If you enjoy what Jeremy and I do on game days, or maybe you're like, hey man, it's the first time I found you guys during the preseason. If you had a good time during the preseason, you're going to have an amazing time during the regular season. So one more time here, it's chatsports.com/week1. And if you're like, Mitch, I can't make it there on game day. I can only get there on that Saturday. Well, we're also doing a Topgolf event there, which is chatsports.com/Topgolf. I stink at Topgolf. It's all good. There's going to be free appetizers. You can get other food. You can get other drinks there. It's going to be an awesome time. 20 winners for this one. Saturday, Sunday. My family's going to be there, and I want to introduce y'all. Let's go to number 3 here. It's Patrick Peterson. And the reason why I'm going to bring up Patrick Peterson is due to his multiple connections. And I know that people are going to be like, dude, he's old. People said the exact same thing about Charles Woodson. I'm not trying to sit up here and say that Patrick Peterson is Charles Woodson, but when Patrick Peterson was in his prime, he was one of the best corners in the NFL. And now that he's getting up there in age a little bit, they kind of transitioned him to a safety last season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think it was necessarily that bad of a move. If you want to have a hybrid player with Isaiah Pola-Mao, wouldn't you want to have somebody learn next to him with Patrick Peterson? Also, Raiders safety coach Gerald Alexander, he was the coach last season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's now with the Las Vegas Raiders. So if you want to have a hybrid strong safety cornerback role, that way it still lets a young player like Isaiah Pola-Mao develop on top of that. It adds more versatility. And Peterson, at this point of his career, he's probably not the athlete, not even probably. He's not the athlete. He's not the player that he was at corner. And he's probably not good enough to win on a consistent basis. But he is good enough. And I thought he did a pretty damn good job last season taking over for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And the coverage stats, I think they kind of prove that. 51.7 completion percentage against them, 11 PBUs, 2 INTs, and 80.4 quarterback rating. You're not going to get the Peterson where you could just shut down an entire side. That's not what you're going to get. But I'm going to get a veteran who understands Gerald Alexander, a veteran that can be a corner safety hybrid player and let some of these younger guys do it. And on top of that, he's going to be ready to go. I know Patrick Peterson's going to be ready to go with 2 weeks left. Let's go to number 2 here on the list. It's Adoree Jackson, and I don't think it's more likely that Jackson signs than Peterson. I just think that he's the better player right now for the Raiders. Now, he's also got some injury concerns, right? I can't sit up here and say Brandon Facyson scares the hell out of me with his injuries and then say that Adoree's doesn't. Adoree Jackson has had some injury concerns, but you also got to look at the upside. And if I'm Las Vegas, if you're going to go out and you're going to start a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, then you need more upside on your defense. Quite frankly, you do. He had a career year with Patrick Graham back in 2021. Probably, I think, would take a 1-year cheap prove-it deal. And when you look at the deal that Stephon Gilmore got, quite frankly, I can't believe that the Raiders didn't offer that for Gilmore. And injuries have limited him, no doubt. But he does have that inside-out versatility, and he could be a player that, depending on how healthy he is, he could be reliable. It wasn't good last season, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It was not a good year last season for Adoree Jackson, but you got to hope that, you know what, his relationship with Patrick Graham, it was a good fit at one point, and maybe he can give you a little bit more of spark, give you a little bit more depth there from top to bottom. So before I reveal my number 1 corner that I want the Raiders to, at least pick up the phone and give him a call, I'll at least allow you to get some names in there. Name a free agent corner that the Raiders should sign. I have a feeling the name I'm about to bring up is going to be the name that a lot of you say down below. So coming up here at number 1, it's Xavien Howard. And The reason why the Xavien Howard situation is weird is because you can Google Xavien Howard and you can see what he did this offseason. It was a weird move. I'm not going to debate it. But he's worked with Patrick Graham, he's worked with Rob Leonard, and he's worked with Gerald Alexander. From a connection standpoint, the Xavien Howard move makes sense. 15 interceptions in 2 years with Gerald Alexander as his defensive back coach. Medically was cleared before the NFL draft, and I know we always talk about injuries, but he has started at least 13 games the last 4 seasons. I like the Xavien Howard move. It was a weird offseason, but when you combine the amount of money the Raiders have, the amount of talent Xavien Howard has, his connection with certain teammates on the Raiders, and then you add all that up together in terms of need, Xavien Howard does make the most sense. And last season, when he was on the field, he did a pretty good job. He had 502 yards against him, 12 PBUs, 1 INT. But again, I'm looking at his connections, what he did back in 2020, 2021, and like, you can say what you want about Ja'Cory Bennett. You can say what you want about Brandon Facyson. But if corner is a legit and honest scare for Las Vegas, which I think it should be, I think that they need to look themselves in the mirror and go, yeah, we can improve. Xavien Howard would be right up there with Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, Xavien Howard. Those would be your top 3 corners on this team. I will also say that you can always be patient. And this has been a name that I've thrown out there multiple times, and if he is released August 27th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, this will be the new number 1 on this list. It's James Bradberry. James Bradberry's not going to cost you a lot of money. I still think that there's a chance he ends up getting traded because if a team does trade for him, you only owe him $1.2 million this upcoming season. Philadelphia is going to eat all the rest of the money. But like you also seen what Philadelphia has done in the offseason. Yeah, Bradberry was booty cheeks last year. He was. But the last time we saw Bradberry being an elite corner was in 2022. Teammate at the time, Marcus Epps. Maybe it helps out a little bit. Also, has got some experience with Patrick Graham's defense. The last name that I'm going to throw out there is if you don't want to go veteran, but you at least want to go with a player that I actually thought deserved to make the Raiders roster last season, was Duke Shelley. And Shelley was another fun player that I thought went out there, was a tenacious player. He was a guy that's going to put his body on the line. He's small. He's a small corner, no doubt. But if you miss the Amik Robertson, if you miss the fiery player, a dude that put up some good numbers in man, I'm just looking for an extra depth player. So Duke Shelley would just be another name that I would throw out there if he does end up getting released. Now, if you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. If the Raiders do anything crazy today, I'm going to be keeping you guys up to date. They have still yet to make a single roster move in terms of a cut. They got to get down to 53 players by August 27th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. That way you don't miss a thing.